Today I'm talking about apps for content creators, I should say, and live streamers, and specifically apps that are available as part of the Setapp subscription. So Setapp is a service that you subscribe to and pay on a monthly basis, and then you get access to over 200 great utility-style apps that cover all sorts of different functions for your Mac. So I've talked about this a lot on the channel before. I've got a playlist which I've linked in the description as well, specifically about all of the different Setapp apps that I use, or rather some of them. I'm still building that list out. So today, just focusing on some of the ones that are specifically relevant to content creators and live streamers, but actually they are just as equally applicable to anybody, whatever you happen to be doing on your Mac. So just coming over to the Setapp application, I'll just quickly touch on this and talk about this a little bit more later. But basically, it sits on in your menu bar, but then you've got this sort of secondary app store really that you can then look for all of the apps that are available through Setapp. As I say, there are over 200 great apps in here. One of the things that I really like about Setapp is the fact that I found that the regular Mac App Store and also the iOS App Store, whilst they were great in the early days for discoverability, I find that they can be a little bit sort of bloated with lots of different apps, and it's hard to really find those sort of golden nuggets, if you like, in amongst all of that. So now the apps that I use, I tend to use via recommendations and things like that, rather than actually just going into the App Store to discover new apps to use. One thing I like about Setapp is it does have this feel that it is a sort of real curated list of apps, and these are all great apps really that a lot of them I've been using before in any case, and so some of these, as I say, I've been using for years and have been paying for either as a sort of one-off payment or on a subscription basis. So where I've got stuff that is on subscription, I've cancelled those subscriptions and moved over to the Setapp version, which is included in the Setapp subscription. And where I've got other apps that I've been using for years, one of the ones I'll talk about up here is iStatMenus. Been using this for years, and every time there is a paid upgrade, I always pay to upgrade because it's such a valuable tool. Well, that's now available on Setapp. So when it came to the next paid upgrade, I just got the Setapp version instead. So as I say, feels like a real curated list. They have got different collections here, so related to different things. So we've got some presentation apps, back-end apps, use with shortcuts, so apps specifically for shortcuts. You can click in here. There's lots of different collections. So as I say, this is a real sort of curated list of different apps that you may want to use. And you can also just search for all apps. So we've just got a list, and this is basically the full list. You can just go down the list and see which ones you are interested in. Any one of these you want to install, you just simply come over here, click on the little install button. If you've got one of the apps open already, you can click on the open button here, and it will just open the app directly, although it does actually sit on your Mac just like any other regular app. There's no difference between the apps that you get from here and if you've been and downloaded them from the website. They are apps that just sit on your Mac. And then you've also got a section here for on this Mac. So here you can see the apps that I've currently got from Setapp on my Mac. There are a number of others, as I've just mentioned, that are Setapp apps, but that I still have existing licenses for or something like that. So this is not by any means all of the ones that I'm using that are available in Setapp. So let's have a little look at the ones that I'm going to talk about today, specifically for live streamers or content creators. And the first one is a really great one for live streamers, which I've actually not got switched on at the moment, which is TripMode. And this is sits up here. A lot of these, by the way, are apps that will sit in the menu bar. There's a lot of utility style apps that basically just do a job, one job, and do it really well. So there are other, regular apps that will sit in the dock and so on, but lots of them are these kind of utility style apps. So what is TripMode? It sits up here in the dock, and this is basically to control what is using the bandwidth on your computer at any given time. And the usual behavior is, anything that you've given access to can clearly just go or freely just go and access your internet connection. And so basically I haven't turned this on yet. It's just to demonstrate the point of all of the different things that you may not really think about that are actually using your internet connection. So here we are on a live stream, and I've got Dropbox whirring away in the background, downloading or syncing various different things. I've got a Chrome tab open somewhere, a Chrome window open somewhere. In fact, I can't actually see a Chrome window on my screen. So let me see exactly where that is. It might be that I've got one minimized. Yes, I have. So Google Chrome is still happily talking away to the internet there. Ecamm Live, not going to touch that one. That's what I'm using to record this. We've got Safari. You can see here it tells you the time when they last actually made a request or talked to the internet. So Safari is not actually active now, as opposed to these ones which are active now. And then we've got Cloud Sync. So that's going away in the background. These things are ones that can really sort of kill your bandwidth, especially if you have got a relatively, poor connection or not a particularly fast connection. Then if you're doing anything on, live streaming, for example, you don't really want all of these things on. I think I'm safe just for the moment. I will turn it all off in a moment, but because I've got quite a fast connection. But this also goes for Zoom. So actually, a lot of the apps that I'm talking about here now are just as relevant for if you are on meetings and things like that, because you only need a slight break in your connection to really ruin the flow of a meeting. When you're on Zoom meetings and then somebody's connection goes back and then they come back, did you hear me? Where did you lose me from? That sort of thing. And it's usually always, I found, at some critical point where they've just got some really important bit of information that they want to give to you, or maybe it's the point of closing a sale or something like that. That is usually when the internet's going to go down, isn't it? It just seems to work like that. So these things like Dropbox Sync, iCloud Sync, and so on in the background. Some of these other ones that you might not even realize are calling into the internet. So contacts, we've obviously got Setapp, calendar, another iCloud there, core sync. So Adobe's got lots of little things. If you're using the Adobe Creative Suite, it seems like they've got a number of different things that put in calls to the internet. Messages and FaceTime, Fantastical, Maps. I don't think I've even opened Maps. I don't know when the last time I opened Maps on my computer was, and yet there it is, funnily enough, trying to talk to the internet. Software update, doing its regular check, Microsoft Update Assistant, and so you can see the list goes on and on. Stocks app. I haven't got the Stocks app open, so I'm not sure about that. I'll tell you why that is. No, actually, I tell a lie. I've got it in my little widgets on the sidebar there. So yeah, all of these apps are basically trying to chat away to the internet, and if you have too many of these happening at the same time, as I say, it can really ruin your connection. So what TripMode does, all of that long-winded list of all the things that are on my computer talking to the internet, what TripMode does is it allows you to basically control that, and all I need to do is toggle it on, just like this. And what it will do is now it's going to limit to certain apps. So I have allowed Google Chrome and Ecamm Live to talk to the internet. But I haven't allowed Dropbox, and this is my little Nanlink app. But I might want to just actually toggle off some of these other ones. So if I see anything calling the internet, I can just come in here and toggle them off. You can set some presets for this as well, by the way. So depending on what you're doing, but you can see actually, look how many are actually making calls to the network right now. But basically what you can do in TripMode is you can create different scenarios that you want. So I've got various different profiles, as they call them. So I've got one for live streaming. I've got one for when I'm at the coffee shop, where I don't want lots of things going on in the background, using up bandwidth, or crucially transferring information over an unsecure network. One for when we're on the plane, for Teams meetings, and various other different things. So you can have this set up depending on what you're doing. So you might have one for live streaming, but then obviously there may be other things that you want when you're on Zoom calls, where you don't need certain applications open, or you want other ones open, or access, I should say. Hey Dale, great to see you as always. And so yeah, this is where you can create those, and basically in the applications section, you're just going to go in there and whitelist the applications that you want to allow access to. I'm not quite sure actually why I've got these ones as allowed. I think it maybe been when I was doing a demonstration, but in any case, that is TripMode. So once again, that just sits up in the menu bar there, and it allows you to control what is getting access to your network. So another one that sits up in the menu bar, and this is one that I use on my my channel when I'm doing screen demos and things like that, is this one here called OneSwitch. And what OneSwitch does is it basically puts a series of toggles for different actions in your menu bar. And so I've got one here, hide desktop icons. I don't usually have lots of things on my desktop, but occasionally when I'm working, I'll throw things up there. So if I'm doing a screen demo or sharing my screen in Teams or something like that, I may want to just hide those icons, exactly like I've done now. So toggling that would unhide the icons. Then I've also got screen resolution. So when I'm doing screen demos, I don't necessarily want to have a full 4K screen shown. If I'm obviously now I'm just showing a portion of the screen, but if I was doing something in Ecamm Live where I do what's called live demo mode, where it shows basically the whole screen, if I was showing a 4K screen on and somebody was watching on mobile, then obviously that would be really quite difficult to see. So I do actually have this one which toggles my screen resolution, and I can change my resolution between the 4K and basically HD. So it just actually with the touch of a button, it actually just toggles the screen resolution. I'm not going to do it now because it will screw up my view, but it basically just changes the resolution of the screen so that when I'm sharing my whole screen, it doesn't come across as 4K. It comes across as slightly less than that. Well, it comes across as HD. Now, in terms of what you can have in there, I've actually only got 2 things in there because those are the only ones out of this list that I need. There are some of these that I do in other ways, but this really highlights one of the great points about Setapp, because if I only wanted to use 2 of the features of this particular app to just be able to hide my desktop icons and adjust the screen resolution, if I didn't own this app through Setapp, I might not go and buy it because I think, well, there's only really limited use for it. But one of the great things about Setapp is even if you're only going to use, part of an app, it's just all included in the price. So you end up using a lot more of these things that perhaps you wouldn't have otherwise thought, to justify the expense for. Although I'm not sure how much this is. I doubt this costs very much in any case, actually. But these are the other things that you can have in your little toggles up in the menu bar here. So you can turn on Do Not Disturb. You can mute your microphone, turn on dark mode, show hidden files. So in the Finder, sometimes if you're doing stuff where you're trying to get to preferences and things like that in the Finder, then it's useful to be able to unhide all of the system's hidden files so that you can get to those things. So as I say, preference files, things like that. I tend to just have those always unhidden, actually. So there we go. But you also got this one to keep your computer awake so it doesn't sleep if you've got doing something, or maybe you're on a call and you're going to be sitting not doing anything on your computer. You don't want it to go to sleep. Screensaver to toggle that on. Headphones, I think that toggles the headphones that you've got that you have connected at any given time. I'm not sure about that one, actually, but you can turn on night shift, true tone, play music, display sleep, so put the display to sleep. I tend to do that with hot corners, actually, for display sleep and screensaver and stuff like that. So that's again why I don't use that particular one. Lock the keyboard, lock the screen. Xcode cache clean. I'm sure if you are a coder and you use Xcode, you'll know what that is for. It's not something that I use particularly. Empty trash, eject disk, and empty pasteboard. Hide Windows, hide dock, and low power mode. So these are basically all of the actions that you can actually have. So you could have these as toggles within the menu bar, I should say. But you don't have to activate them from there, though. What you can do is you can assign shortcuts. So for any of these things that we've got in here, we can actually assign a shortcut to it as well. And the beauty of that is that makes it actually really easy then. If you assign a shortcut to these things in here, then it makes it really easy to assign those to a button on the Stream Deck. So I actually never use the toggles in the menu bar itself. I always just use the Stream Deck buttons to toggle the actions that I want, or the things that I want to toggle on and off. So it is a great little way of creating system-based actions for your Stream Deck that otherwise aren't available on the Stream Deck. So there isn't necessarily one on the Stream Deck to toggle Do Not Disturb on and off, for example, but you could do quite simply with this one. So here you see I've got a shortcut for Do Not Disturb, and then I've got a button on my Stream Deck that will do that. So that is one switch because you just have one switch for all of these different things. So yeah, really a really great app. And like I say, you don't necessarily need to use all of these. You can just use whichever ones you see fit, and as they're all part of Setapp, it's all included in that. So you do just want to make sure it will be this as default, but basically start at login so that when you obviously log in, this is all there and these actions will be available to you. So that was OneSwitch. So once again, these are all, I just do need to mention, these are all part of Setapp. And as you've seen, Setapp is a great collection of apps, over 200 utility-style apps for the Mac. And you can get a free trial at takeonetech.io/Setapp. Now that is an affiliate link, but the way the affiliate link works is if you use my link, then you do get the exact same 7-day free trial of that everybody else gets, if they just go to the website normally. However, if you sign up having used my link, then when you sign up, your first month will be free, and I will also get a free month as well. So that's the way their affiliate program works. It's you get one free, I get one free. It's as simple as that. And you might think it's a week for a free trial. What do you get for that? Well, you do get access to all of these apps. So you can actually just sort of download these apps and try them all out and see what you think of them. Before you do that, though, you may also want to just check out the playlist, which I've linked in my description, which basically is a list of the apps that you can get through Setapp that I've made tutorials for on my channel. So then you can maybe evaluate the apps up front as well. But there is, as I say, loads of great apps in there. I've got a whole series of apps to make before the 14th of May, certainly. I've got a list of videos that I've got to make for my channel, and I've got a whole series on different Setapp apps. So there will be a whole load of more apps that I'll be covering specifically on the channel. So another one that I want to just cover is, again, this is an app I've been using for years, actually. As long as I can remember using the Mac for. In fact, I can't remember. It was one of the first apps, utility-style apps that I got for the Mac. But basically, this is a thing called iStatMenus. This sits up in the menu bar at the top of the menu. Oh, just one second. Well, hello. Sorry about that. My little boy just came running in crying, but fortunately his mother was on hand as well. So he's probably arguing with his big sisters, no doubt. Just checking that my volume is on again. iStatMenus is, I think, where I was up to. So iStatMenus is an application that sits in the menu bar of the Mac here, and we've basically got a series of stats related to the Mac, and you can add in all sorts of different things in here, but it can show you things like your network traffic, so it can show you that in terms of the upload and download speed, and you've got these little charts up here as well, and if you click on any one of these little items here, so we've got the used and free memory, we've got the disk space here, and we've got the different disks that you've got attached. So I've got my main disk, and then I've got an external disk attached here as well. It's showing you the sort of read and write to the disks. So this is useful if for this and the network, to see what's actually using your network. We looked at the TripMode, obviously. Well, this does basically the same thing here, so you can actually just see sort of live a list of everything that is sending and receiving information via the internet, and then you can come over here and also see the processors as well. So this shows you all of the different cores that you've got in your computer. So this is all 8 cores whirring away there, and then it will show you the total CPU usage. So down here you can see the CPU usage of my computer. This is, by the way, where you see the percentages, that is the percentage of a single core. So hence this adds up to way more than 100%. Technically it can go up to 800% in this case, because this is an 8-core computer. And then hovering over the chart, you can actually see all of the different usage and so on. You can come up here if you want to get really geeky, change over the past 24 hours, the past 7 days, the past 30 days if you really want to have a look at a chart to see what your CPU usage has been like over the past time. By the way, you'll notice that in terms of CPU usage, in fact this is just actually disappearing off the screen. Let me just tell you that this line here around here is actually the 50% mark. So really my computer's barely definitely been over 50% CPU usage peak at any given time in the past 30 days. So this is basically a base model M1 Mac Mini. It's what I'm using for all of my videos, all of my live streaming and everything like that. And yeah, we haven't really gone over the 50% CPU usage. So when people ask, can it handle it in terms of the CPU, then the base model M1 Mac Mini first generation really is quite amazing. This was really all the more important for me, this iStatMenus, with my my previous computer, my my MacBook, because that was not quite so the case, where it was always less than 50%. It was often maxing out. So having this to be able to actually see what was going on was always useful. You can actually come down to have a look at the individual cores as well and get those charts here as well. So just right-clicking on any one of these. If I come into the here, this little button down at the bottom, this brings up the different options that we've got. We can change various different things on it, so we can choose exactly what we want to go in the menu bar. So here I've got these little, this is the, as you can see, CPU and GPU. Those are the charts I've got. There are these other charts as well if you want to add those in. So you've got active items, which are in the menu bar, and inactive items. So if I wanted to add in this one showing the usage in a different way, you can see that that's now added that particular chart just up there in the menu bar. So lots of customization and lots of different things that you can show in here. We've also got the same for memory. So here I've just got it quite simply sort of the RAM. This is the sort of used and free, but you can also do that in terms of a chart as well if you want to see the use over time. This is the sort of read write little indicator. I've got a read write indicator as in upload and download. No, that's not. I beg your pardon. That is the symbol that I use on my network. This is just for use memory and free memory. Beg your pardon. And so next we come to disks. So this is where you can show disk space. And once again, I just use the sort of used and free. And then I've got this little indicator to show which particular disk it is. So we've got the two different disks that I've got connected there. But then again, you can show the sort of read and write to the disk if you want. That's not something that I'm particularly need to show necessarily. Then we've got network. So I talked about that, the network traffic. We've also got sensors. I don't actually use this one anymore. I used to use this on my MacBook because it often felt like it was getting a bit hot. And so if I turn this one on, there is actually a whole series of sensors. There is fan sensors, so we can add that one in, although it's just actually come off to the end of the screen. Let me just try and move this over. If I move this over here, there we go. That's telling me that the temperature is 40 degrees of whatever sensor it's looking at, and it happens to be looking at this one. So it's one of the main sort of on the core processor, but there is actually all of these different temperature sensors built in. So the Apple Neural Engine, the CPU efficiency cores, performance cores, GPU, and so on. So you can actually pick any one of these temperature sensors and get readouts of the temperatures on your computer. If you are really pushing things to the limit, then maybe that might be important. Like I said, I did always have these on for my laptop because I wanted to see, you know, what the fan speeds and temperatures were, just to check if anything was getting ridiculous. Some of these temperatures can get quite scarily high, so at least they did for me before. With the Mac Mini, I haven't really found any issues with heat or anything like that, so I don't bother with that one on anymore. This is a desktop, so don't bother with the battery, but there is sort of advanced battery monitoring here, so it can tell you for different devices that you've got plugged in as well, not just the MacBook itself, or not just the computer itself, but it will show you, you know, how full the battery is and different ways to display that, how long you've got remaining. So that was always a useful one for me, estimated time remaining on my battery when I was on my laptop, to know how much more coffee I could feasibly drink before my battery ran out. That is the battery, and then you've got some different time ones as well, so you can actually change the time and date format that you've got in the top. I actually don't like to have the date on this computer or the clock. I've got my main clock here externally, so it saves space in the menu bar. But you may want to add these things in, and you can add in different world clocks as well. So you could have a series of times across the top with different world clocks. And then there's this one here, which is combined. This is basically going to combine these. Whoopsie daisy. And now I've just gone and turned all of my things off. There we go. Let me turn those back on. That combines all of them into a single sort of item in the menu bar, if you like. And I've just missed out a few of these up at the top, which I'm not currently using. So you can have the weather displayed as well, the weather up in the top, notifications you can have on as well. And then there are some global settings here. You can set change the different colors and things like that. So this is iStatMenus. As I say, it's a great app for just generally monitoring your system. And it's also great if you suddenly find that you've got something happening, like your computer's going really slow, or your processors, not working as hard as you thought, or not giving you the results that you thought. Just clicking on this to see, what is using the processor here is a great little thing to see, where there might be something either crashing or hogging your memory, a bit like going into Activity Monitor on the Mac, which is built in. But here it is just right there in the menu. In fact, speaking of Activity Monitor, one of the great things you've got down here is you have got shortcuts to some of the Mac's built-in things. So we've got Activity Monitor right down here, for example. So you can just click on that one and it will open up the Activity Monitor to, if you need to force quit apps or anything like that. So that is iStatMenus, and the next one that I was going to talk about is actually what I'm using to organize my menu bar, which is an app called Bartender. And this is basically really great if you're on a laptop, especially because we do seem to find that if we're using all of these utility style apps, you may have lots of different things up here in the menu bar. So hey Kevin, great to see you. So yeah, you may end up with lots of different menu items in the menu bar, and they can sort of stretch off. And if you've got things open on a smaller screen where you've got your sort of menu bar items along the top with, for your program menus, and then you've got a whole load of menu bar items up in the top here in terms of menu bar applications, especially if you are using something like iStatMenus, which then takes up a big load of space at the top, you may find you are running out of space for all of your icons. And at some point they will just get sort of truncated and you won't be able to see them all because of the, as I say, the other, menu writing from the other side coming with your menus. So Bartender basically is a way to organize the things that you've got on your in your menu bar, and it sits up here like this with this little icon. And you can basically have some icons that are shown in the menu bar, but then you can have some that either when you click the menu Bartender item, Bartender icon, I should say, they show up as this kind of like secondary menu underneath. So it basically means that it takes them out from the top and puts them down underneath here. Now this is great for things where you maybe have them running, but you don't necessarily need to use the actual icon in the menu bar, or you don't want to see the menu bar icon, and so it sort of puts them out of the way. There is another behavior for this though, where rather than open up in a separate little menu bar, indeed the original way that it always used to work was that it would actually just sort of expand to fill out all of those extra icons along the top. There's a few other tricks that it's got though with Bartender. If I come into preferences, so there are some general things like, launching at login and these kind of things, which you'll want to make sure it does do. So it keeps your things all nice and organized. But if I come into this section, I'm not going to go through all of these specific settings, except for one I'll just highlight your attention to, which is this one down here, menu bar item spacing. For some reason, when they changed to Big Sur, it was in Big Sur and still now I think in the current version as well, Monterey, they changed the default spacing of the menu bar items. So they were like extra far apart. And there didn't seem to me to be any need for them to be that far apart. And all it did was really just exacerbate this whole issue of, not having enough space in the menu bar. So here you've got an option to change it back to, he says, pressing the wrong button on his Stream Deck. Here you've got the option to change it back from the sort of regular default spacing to this one, small spacing, which is the previous Mac OS spacing. And it basically just reverts this back to the kind of spacing that you used to have in your menu bar icons previously. And there's also this one, no spacing, which will make it just even tighter. That is a little bit step too far for me. So I just wanted it back the way it was, basically. So yeah, there is different options in here. I'm not going to go into all of these options, but I will just show you how you can arrange the actual menu bar themselves. So we've got a couple of different options in here. So first of all, we've got the items up here. It says show in menu bar, show menu bar items. So all of these ones in this little strip here are basically going to be always shown in your menu bar. So this is kind of like the default, just like it would have been initially when you install Bartender. Everything will just be all in this little space here. The next one is hidden menu bar items. So these are the ones that you want to have only revealed when you click on the Bartender menu. So you can see I've got this list of icons here, and if I click in Bartender at the top, those are the ones that then get revealed just down here. So these are the ones that basically you're sort of tucking away. I should say that I've got lots of icons in my menu bar, as you can see. That's because, as I say, I've got this sort of 4K display, so I've got plenty of room for it. I don't actually mind them being shown there, whereas on my laptop I use Bartender a lot more heavily because really I have most of the things hidden out of the way. Next, you've also got some always hidden menu bar items. So these are things that basically they do have a menu bar icon, but there's no need to ever see them. It's just an application that runs in the background or something like that. Then you can tuck those away from there. In fact, something like this Keyboard Maestro engine, I could quite easily pop that one down there because I never actually go into Keyboard Maestro from this menu bar item. So that would be an example of one where you could just say, yeah, always hide it. I don't need to ever get to the icon itself. And then this one down here is menu bar items. Now, basically, there's only one thing in them at the moment, but it is quite useful. And this is a spacer. And this allows you to add a spacer between your menu bar items. And as you can see in my menu bar here, I've basically got these spaces. So I've grouped some actions together. These are ones related to my display and live streaming and stuff like that. Then I've got a gap here. These are ones related to some automation apps like my Stream Deck, Loop Deck, Text Expander, and so on. Then I've got another gap. So these were just ways for me to organize these things that made sense to me in terms of sort of grouping them together. And I find that having these little gaps just makes it quite a lot easier to actually find the app, because sometimes when you just want to glance up and get to it, if they're all in a big long list, it can sometimes be difficult to spot the one that you want. So putting these little breaks in, I found was really useful. You can change the width of these. So when you add in a spacer, if I just click on it, he says it just did it. There we go. Hover over it. So there you can change the spacer width. If you want to put a label in it, so if you really want to sort of actually label your groups, you could say, this is live streaming menu bar items. I don't think I need to actually do that. So I haven't actually put anything in there. But basically, this is where you can group things together. So that is the spaces that you can add. So it does make it just really easy to organize the things that you've got in your menu bar. So Bartender, as you start using some of these other actions, so this is when you start adding in some of these other utility style apps from Setapp, then this actually comes in really handy to organize all of those things. So there is quite a few other different apps up in the menu bar, but I'm not going to talk about those ones just now. I'm going to go on to a couple of actual real apps, if you like, that sit on your desktop that are, I find specifically useful for the content creation side of stuff, and I suppose live streaming as well as part of that. The first one is Mindnode, and Mindnode is a mind mapping app, which is one of the really popular ones out there. It's something that I was using previously, so this is a case of one of these apps where I'd already been using it, and then when saw that it was available as part of Setapp, then didn't bother with the updates or the paid upgrades. I just went with the Setapp version, which is the full version of the app. So Mindnode is, as I say, great for making mind maps. He says, having just lost the thing that I was just doing with it. Hang on, let me just try something 1 second. There we go. Let me just start afresh. There we go. So this is just for mind mapping. So you can start with content ideas, for example. Whoops, I can never type and talk at the same time. And then basically just create a mind map with tutorials. Like this, and you can basically, there's a load of keyboard shortcuts for this. I was going to make actually a Stream Deck icon pack for this, but basically you can just add in lots of different things into here, and with a sort of tree. I'm sure you all know what mind maps look like. So I can come in here, add another branch like this, and then we can come and add another node to this one, and so on. So as you can see, I've just gone with the typing nonsense instead. But this is Mindnode, and this is for creating these mind maps. And I find it really useful for coming up with some initial ideas and sort of brainstorming around how to do things. It is available on iOS as well. And hey Keely, I'll try and talk a little bit slower so it makes sense in double speed. Great to see you here. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a really comprehensive mind mapping application actually. So I'm not going to do too much on this. I have done a video about Mindnode already. I think, have I or have I not? Maybe I haven't. Do you know what? I'm second guessing myself now. It's hard to keep track of everything I've made. Do you know what? I think I haven't. I think it's on the list, but I haven't done it yet. I'll be doing that though as one of these videos before the 14th of May then. I think that might be where I've seen it actually on my list of videos to make. So Mindnode is a really great app for, when you're coming up with ideas and things like that and just brainstorming. When I'm actually coming to plan stuff out though, like specifically courses, I've started doing this with my live streams. Not this one today, I hasten to add, but my sort of longer form live streams, my weekly live streams, when I started trying to be a little bit more intentional about sort of planning those out. And as I say, for courses and that, I actually find more of an outliner app works better for me. Now, here's the thing. The power has just gone out, but my lights and internet are all still working. Oh, there we go. It's come back on. So my lights in the background have gone into disco mode. Just bear with me 1 second. Everything is on a UPS except my lights in the background. And those ones basically will reset themselves to flashing disco status every time the power goes off. But it just goes to show the importance of having your internet and UPS, your internet and computer on a lost my train of thought now. Having your router and computer and lights on a UPS, so that in the event of a power failure, your lights stay on. Do you know what? I think we're stuck with that flashing disco light in the back. My little remote won't control it from here. So let me get back to where I was, shall I? The other app then that I want to talk about is when I'm actually doing my final sort of preparation for the courses and stuff like that, I actually prefer to have it in an outliner form, and so for that there is a great little sort of lightweight app called Cloud Outliner. There are lots of these. I know that you can do these in lots of other applications. The thing I liked about this is it's one of these ones where it was just available as part of Setapp. I gave it a go because it was as part of the Setapp subscription. I could just download it and try it out, and I just really loved the simplicity of it, and it does one thing and does it really well. So you've basically got different folders where you can organize your stuff. So if you've got different folders of things in here, this is a folder. And then you've got a little sort of list in here or an outline that you want to create. So this is my little demo outline. So you can just add in new items like this down here, and then we can just indent things. So there's little shortcuts to do indentations. Again, I'm just talking, just typing gobbledygook here, but there's different things that you can do with it as well, like assigning notes. You've got these buttons at the top for adding a new item. There is keyboard shortcuts for all of these. Add a new row, add a new indented child row, or put something back in here. What's the opposite of indent? Outdent. And then various different ways to sort it and add notes and things like that. I just find that it's a really great app for just throwing together these sort of outlines and really thinking them through in terms of different sections and stuff like that. So I have used this, as I say, for the courses that I'm creating, but then also for these sort of longer form, again, not this one, longer form live streams where I want to make sure I hit certain points going through with the content that I'm covering. So yeah, just a really great little lightweight outliner. So that is another one, as I say, great for sort of content creation and things like that. There is a few others in here that I'll just sort of touch on. I won't go into too much depth in all of these because I could literally go on for days covering all of the different apps in here. There is a couple of other good ones though. So there is, well, I say a couple of good ones. There's a load of good ones. There's two specifically though that I wanted to mention. One of those is Squash, which is for if I get it up. I should have got this open already. So Squash is for basically manipulating images and things like that and doing batch editing. So you basically can I should have prepared this, but you can basically just drop an image in here. So let me just use a sample photo. And 1 second, there we go. You can do various different things like resizing. You can make adjustments to it in terms of the color, things like that. Various different effects that you can apply. So in the same way that you've got filters and stuff like that on Instagram or whatever, you can apply those. You've got different borders that you can apply to the image. So we can do different border effects. Then we've got different ways to compress the file. So if you want to make them smaller, change the file format from JPEG, PNG, things like that. So these are all just little actions that, as you can see, you can just toggle it on. You can change the metadata, or maybe strip out some metadata if you want to strip out the GPS location, stuff like that. Batch renaming as well, so you can rename a load of files. And so lots of different things that you can do in here, and you can choose the export location and so on. But what you can do here, though, is create lots of different presets, and then basically, you know, as you are, if you're working away, you're doing things with images and so on, you can just drop a whole load of images on here, and it will just sort of batch change them. So that one is a really useful app for that that particular purpose. There's another good app in here called Permute, and this actually works hand in hand with the app that shall not be named that I got a video about removed on YouTube. The other app by the same developer that allows you to download videos from various different websites, including the one that this video is hosted on. So I got a bit of a slap on the wrist for making that video by YouTube, which is quite understandable because I'd broken the rules about telling people how to download videos. So I won't do that. But if you have got any kind of video, wherever it's come from, Permute is something that basically can do various different things if you need to change the formatting of the video or things like that, and you can do stuff like stripping out the audio and so on as well. So that is another great one that you can use. I'll just come back to the setup because I was always trying to keep my daily vlogs to about 30 minutes, so running a little bit long at the moment. But there's, as I say, we've covered off some of these: Mindnode, Cloud Outliner, Bartender. There's a few other good ones here that I'm going to be making videos about. Haze Over, that is basically to dim background apps. So if you want to work sort of distraction free and just have the thing that you're working on front and center, then Haze Over is the app for you there. We've talked about OneSwitch. Side Notes is a little app that pops out of the side of your desktop to allow you to store little notes there. I do use the regular Notes app and other note-taking things, but there's something about this one that I just find quite useful. I've got a video about that in the playlist that is linked in the description. It's just a nice little app. As I say, not going to go through all of these ones. Extract text from visuals, that is a great one. Text Sniper, so basically works like the image snapshot that you can use, screenshot app in or function in Mac, but basically you can just assign a different hotkey to it. So I just use the same thing, and when you take the snapshot, instead of taking a snapshot of the image, it actually just extracts all of the text. You'll find a video about that in the playlist that I mentioned as well. So really lots of great apps in there. I'll just say once again, if you have not tried it already, then go to takeonetech.io/setup to get your free trial. Try out some of these apps. If you've got if you think some of these apps are quite interesting, you may want to just go in there and download some of the apps as part of the trial to see if you like the apps, to see if it's worth using the actual Setapp service. So that is all for today with my disco lights going in the background. However, if you are watching on the replay, I'll leave a link to my Setapp playlist over on the right hand side there, and that's got, as I say, loads of reviews and tutorials on a load of Setapp apps.